Hey folks, about a year ago, I did a video called Answers to 10 Questions for Every Atheist, where I responded to an article posted on the website Today Christian that contained, wait for it, 10 questions for every atheist. And I thought it was a really nice video. It was fun to make. It was sort of a basic kind of meat and potatoes video. So I wanted to do something like that again. And I found a website. It's actually a pretty well-known apologetics website, the Christian Apologetics and Research Ministry, or CARM, run by Matt Slick, who is probably familiar to those of you who are familiar with Christian apologetics. And he has a page on the CARM website called Questions for Atheists that is very similar to the Today Christian page, but it's a little more exhaustive. I almost said exhausting. It's not quite that bad, but it's 31 questions for atheists. And some of the questions are really basic, the kind of things that atheists get asked by religious folks all the time. And some of them are a little more probing, a little more interesting. So I thought what I would do is go through them one at a time and answer all 31 questions. And just so these videos don't get too long and drony and boring, I'm going to split them up into groups of 10. So this will be a 3-video series. This is the first video, questions 1 through 10. And of course, the website that I'm taking these questions from is linked in the description box. So if you want to check it out and answer the questions for yourself, I would love for you to do that. And if you want to share your answers with me in the comment section or make your own video, that would be great too. So here we go. Questions for Atheists by Matt Slick. Question number 1. How would you define atheism? Atheism is most basically not believing in the existence of gods. So that is how I would define it. I would define it as not believing, or as a lack of belief in the existence of gods. But if someone defined it as believing in the non-existence of God, I would accept that too. I do not really quibble over how it is stated, because to me, practically speaking, you're describing the same thing. Whether you define atheism as the lack of belief in the existence of God, or the belief in the non-existence of God or gods, to me, you're describing the same thing in different ways. So either one of those is fine with me. Number 2, do you act according to what you believe there is no God in, or what you don't believe in, lack of belief in God? Yes, I do act according to my atheism, according to my non-belief in gods, or my belief in the non-existence of gods, however someone would like to phrase it. Yeah, of course I do. I don't act consciously with that in mind. Hardly ever. I don't ever think, okay, I have a decision to make now, keeping in mind that I don't believe in God. It just doesn't work that way. It's a part of my overall worldview. It's a part of my overall understanding of the universe and how life works. And in that way, it's not really fair to apply the question exclusively to my answer to the question of whether or not gods exist. My belief or lack of belief in every other area influences my actions as well. I act according to what I believe or don't believe all the time, whether it's relevant to the issue of the existence of gods or not. Number 3, do you think it is inconsistent for someone who lacks belief in God to work against God's existence by attempting to show that God doesn't exist? No, I don't think it's inconsistent, because I don't think that is how an atheist would describe atheist or secular activism. I don't think that atheists understand opposing religion as working against the existence of God. I think if an atheist is attempting to show that God doesn't exist, it's because the atheist sincerely believes that God doesn't exist, and that the person who is saying that God does exist is wrong. And it's not inconsistent to try and demonstrate why you think you're right and the other person is wrong. This sort of question is asked a lot to sort of imply that, well, maybe atheists secretly do believe that God really exists, because if you don't believe that God exists, gee, you sure do talk about him a lot, atheists. But you can make that same argument about things that religious folks do. If evolution isn't real, why are certain evangelical Christian organizations talking about it so much? Why are they so worried about it? I have an even better example. If a Christian is an opponent of another religion, let's say a Christian preacher is an outspoken critic of Islam and devotes a lot of time trying to prove that the Quran is not a legitimate holy book, or that Muhammad was not a real prophet, or that Allah, the Islamic concept of God, is not accurate and is not the true God. Would that Christian preacher think it was reasonable for someone, either a Muslim or an atheist or someone else, to point out that, for someone who doesn't believe in Allah, you sure do talk about him a lot. Isn't it inconsistent for you to be working so hard to disprove the existence of Allah if you don't think he exists? I think when you state it that way, it's obviously just a silly question. Number 4, how sure are you that your atheism properly represents reality? Pretty sure. Number 5, how sure are you that your atheism is correct? I'm curious as to what definition of the word correct is being employed here, that it's treated as a separate question from what represents reality. Isn't something that represents reality considered to be correct? Is there a different theory of what constitutes correct, at least in this context? I mean, obviously correct could mean like, correct manners, socially correct, that sort of thing. But in terms of atheism being correct, I assume that means factually correct. And if something is factually correct, it represents reality. These seem like the same question. The answer is, I'm pretty sure that it's factually correct, and I'm pretty sure that it represents reality. I'm sure enough that, given what I know, or what I think I know anyway, what my understanding is of the way things are and how things work, I don't seriously consider any alternatives. If I were made aware of compelling evidence that a God existed, then I would consider it. And then maybe I would have more doubts about whether or not my atheism is correct. But from where I sit today, I've never seen any compelling evidence that any God exists, so I'm an atheist, and I'm pretty sure that's correct. Number 6, how would you define what truth is? That which is correct. That which corresponds to reality. That which is in accordance with the facts. That's a very literal definition of truth. I suppose we could get more philosophical. We could talk about artistic truth or personal truth or emotional truth. And those are all valid concepts that I'm not meaning to dismiss or demean. But in the context of atheism, or the existence or non-existence of gods, again, I think we're probably talking about a kind of factual truth. And to me, in that context, it's pretty easy to define. That which is true is that which is factually correct, is that which corresponds to reality. Now, how we can go about finding out what is true and what is not true, and how certain we can be of those things, much bigger, much deeper, much more troubling question. Number 7, why do you believe your atheism is a justifiable position to hold? Did you really need 31 questions, Matt? Because a couple of these could have been combined into one question or just left out altogether. It feels like we've been kind of circling the track here for the last couple of these. I believe my atheism is a justifiable position because, to the best of my knowledge and to the best of my understanding, it is the correct position. Or at least it is the most likely to be correct position. That's why I think it's justifiable. I'm an atheist because I don't believe gods exist. And I find that to be a justifiable position because I see no evidence anywhere, ever, that gods exist. Hence, justifiable position. Number 8, are you a materialist or a physicalist or what? Usually I don't think of myself in those terms, and I don't strongly identify as either of those, but I suppose if I had to put myself on the board somewhere, I would call myself a physicalist, because I believe that all that exists is the physical universe and things that exist within accordance with physical laws. So things like ideas, like abstract concepts, exist and are real for what they are, but they are products of minds that are rooted in the physical universe. They are products of the physical universe that exist in accordance with the laws of the physical universe. So yeah, I guess I would say I'm a physicalist. Number 9, do you affirm or deny that atheism is a worldview? Why or why not? I would not say that atheism is a worldview. I think in the context in which we are currently speaking, atheism is best understood as being in its simplest form. The very basic lack of belief in the existence of gods, or belief in the non-existence of gods. That to me is atheism at the very bottom. It reduced down to its simplest form. And that is not a worldview. That is a belief about a particular thing. That is an answer to a single question. I don't see how you can make a worldview out of that. Now, there are numerous worldviews that are compatible with atheism. There are numerous worldviews that I suppose could be described fairly as atheistic, but I don't think that atheism itself is a worldview, and I don't think it's fair or accurate to speak in terms of an atheist worldview, as if there's only one, because there are many, many, many atheist worldviews. Number 10. Not all atheists are antagonistic to Christianity, but for those of you who are, why the antagonism? Whether or not I would call myself antagonistic to Christianity depends very much on what we mean by Christianity. If you mean, am I antagonistic to certain Christian organizations, to certain churches and their activities? Yes, I am antagonistic to certain Christian churches and to certain Christian organizations and their activities. I'm very antagonistic to the idea that LGBT people should not be afforded equality under the law and be treated equally in society and in our culture. And a very, very significant amount of the opposition to that is rooted in conservative Christian groups. So I'm very antagonistic to that. I'm very antagonistic to the notion that religious traditions, that religious beliefs, such as creation stories, ought to be taught to school students in science class alongside things like evolution or Big Bang cosmology or things like that. I'm very antagonistic to that. I'm very antagonistic to the notion that women should not have the right to seek an abortion if they want one or if they need one. And the opposition to legal abortion is, again, almost entirely religious and Christian in nature. So I'm very antagonistic to those things. I'm antagonistic to churches like the Catholic Church covering up sex scandals for decades, if not centuries, and trying to protect rapists and pedophiles from justice. I'm very antagonistic to that. But am I antagonistic to Christians who just want to live in peace and obey the law and be kind and humane to their neighbors? No. Am I antagonistic to Christians who see their Christianity as calling them to be better people, as calling them to help people and to make this a more loving and fair and peaceful and equitable society, as many Christians do? Then no, I'm not antagonistic toward those people at all. And I'm not antagonistic to their forms of Christianity. Even though I think they're based on false beliefs, I don't think there's any form of Christianity that I would say is factually true, because it's all based on the existence of God and the divinity of Jesus, and I just don't think any of that is true. But I can't say I'm antagonistic toward it, because I think even though we disagree about that, and we disagree about the factual bases of their faith, if they are making their communities a better place, and they're trying to do good in the world, I'm not antagonistic toward them at all. Why would I be? So the answer to the question very much depends on what kind of Christian we're talking about and what kind of Christianity we're talking about. Well, that was the 10th question, so I'm going to cut it off at this point. I will be back in the next episode of this 3-episode miniseries. How exciting! To answer questions 11 through 20 of Matt Slick's Questions for Atheists. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you next time. Hey folks, hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like it, share it, subscribe to my channel if you're not subscribed already, and also please consider helping me to make more videos like this by sponsoring this channel through Patreon. You can go to patreon.com/Steve Shives to become a patron. Thanks again for watching. Take care.